So, what is Portable Emulator? It's a 3D overlay for SteamVR that runs in the background on your computer and utilizes Retroarch, so you can pull up a little virtual console to play all your classic games on anywhere in VR. The creator also previously made something very similar, where instead of the little console, you'd spawn a little virtual farm allowing you to tend crops during your VR downtime. What you need and how to prepare it. We're going to make a checklist and make sure you have everything needed to get this up and running, and then we're going to go through on how to get it all tied together. You'll need a VR headset. This one feels obvious, but let's try and make sure we're thorough through this. It needs to be SteamVR compatible. So if you're on the Quest 2, like myself, make sure you're using it through your PC through Oculus Link or my preferred method of virtual desktop streamer. SteamVR compatible PC. This is an overlay program for SteamVR, so you need to make sure you're actually using SteamVR and not like Oculus Home. Portable Emulator. You need the actual program, which I've linked their website Barshift Games in the description below. You'll need to run this program after you've booted up SteamVR every time. Retroarch. You can download Retroarch on their actual website or just on Steam. Since you're already using Steam, I recommend just downloading it there. And then we'll be using Retroarch to download emulator cores, which Portable Emulator will use to run all the games on. A file archiving program, WinRAR, 7-zip, etc. Basically, if it can open and extract files from a zip folder, it's gonna work. And finally, you'll need any game ROM files you want to play. You'll need to get these yourself by backing up your own original copies though. For ease of access, you'll be able to download Portable Emulator along with Retroarch on Steam or their personal website down in the description below. The only thing I won't be including is going to be the games themselves. How to install. In this video, I'll be assuming that you already have Steam installed and have already used SteamVR before. If you haven't, you'll need to download Steam, then set up SteamVR. Next, we'll be installing Retroarch, which is a front end for emulators that will actually be using to download various emulator cores that Portable Emulator will utilize to run the games. We'll start by looking at the list of recommended cores by the creator of Portable Emulator. These are the cores that have been tested with the program, so they should work just fine. Other cores may work but haven't actually been tested. So we'll be opening up Steam and searching Retroarch. You can also use the included link to the store page in the description below. After downloading Retroarch, go ahead and launch it. So for this video, we'll be installing the Game Boy Advance core, Virtual Boy Advance next. After your Retroarch is launched, you should be on the main menu. From there, you'll select Manage Cores, and you'll see a massive list of every core you can install. Any core with a pound sign on the right side of the name means it's installed already. So we're going to scroll all the way down till we find VBA-M, and we'll click on that and press Install Core. I didn't realize until I was making this video, I was actually using MGBA for my GBA games with no issues at all, so this shows that other cores do work, but your mileage may vary. While we're in the core installer, you should install any other cores you may want to use as well in the future. After installing all the cores you want, we need to then locate the files. They'll be in the cores folder inside your Retroarch root folder. If you installed Retroarch through Steam, you can just right-click Retroarch, mouse over Manage, click Browse Local Files, and that'll open up your Retroarch root folder. Then just find the cores folder in there, and that's where they are. Next, we'll be installing Portable Emulator. This one's very simple. All you need to do is head over to their website, which I put in the description below. Hit their Download Now button right at the top of the page. If you want to donate to the dev, this is the perfect time, as it'll prompt you to name your price. Otherwise, just hit download. After it's downloaded, it'll be a .zip folder, so open that bad boy up and you'll see a folder called Portable Emulator. Extract that folder anywhere you want. I put it in a folder with my VR games and then create a shortcut for the program itself on my desktop, so I can easily launch it from inside VR. You'll want to know where you place the folder if you want to change your Portable Emulator skins, which we'll cover later. Now that we have everything installed correctly, we need to understand how the program works. So let's launch PortableEmulator.exe. On this screen, you'll see quite a few options, and we'll go through them all. I couldn't find any guides for what these buttons do, so this section will just be explaining what everything does. You can skip to this time if you don't want to hear these explanations. Show bindings. This will pull up a Steam browser menu for PortableEmulator. This is where you'll spend a bit of time setting up your perfect controls using your VR controllers. There are some community binding presets you can pick from, but we'll go over how to set this up later. Load game ROM. This is where the fun begins. Once you click on this, it'll open up a file explorer inside the program. Lead it to your ROM folder. It'll remember the location you left it on, so if all your games are in the same place, it'll make future swaps between games easier. You can only have one game loaded at a time, and you'll need to use this option to change it every time. Once you load a game though, it'll keep it remembered, so you won't have to load a game ROM every time you launch the program, only when you want to swap games. Load emulator core. This is where we tell PortableEmulator what console we'll be playing on. If you use Steam for Retroarch, all your cores you downloaded will be located in your Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Retroarch, Cores folder tree. If you use Retroarch from another source though, it should be located in your Retroarch/Cores folder as well, but the install location for the Retroarch folder is going to be wherever you put it. Same thing with ROMs, you only need to select this once as the program will remember the core and what folder you loaded it from. Only time you need to load a core is if you need to swap what console you want to emulate. Start game. Once you hit this, PortableEmulator will start running the actual ROM. Without hitting this button, you can still spawn the console in, but the screen will just be a white blank screen. Eject game. This option kills the ROM. You can still spawn the console, but it'll be a blank screen. This is a great option when you want to swap games and cores, or you just want to save some performance temporarily, as running the console in the background does take some resources even when not actively playing the game. Volume. This is a slider and self-explanatory. It's how loud your emulator will be. It doesn't have any numbers or markers, but the more left it is, the quieter. The further right, the louder. Everyone's setup will be different, but for me, about right here is the perfect volume, so I can easily hear the game, but it's not overpowering anything in VR. Recenter handheld. If you scale the console up too big, or for some reason you can't find it when you spawn it in, you'll want to press this button. This will bring the console back to right in front of you, no matter what. Really good option to be aware of. Toggle portal. This is the button equivalent of performing the gesture to spawn the console. Hit this button to spawn the console or to despawn it if the gesture isn't working for whatever reason. I've never had to use it, but it does exist. Create load save states. By default, the emulator allows one save state per game. I use these when closing everything down and getting off VR, but I rely on the actual in-game save methods instead, as they are more reliable. Nice to be double safe though and use both. Enable virtual arcade stick. It creates an arcade stick you have to use your VR hands to grab and affect the game. It's cool, but not really reliable in my opinion. If you want to keep it on, go ahead, but if you disable this, you'll want to pay attention to the next option. Block controls when arcade stick is off. If you disable the virtual arcade stick, then you'll need this on as well. This makes it so when you use your PortableEmulator, your inputs will be blocked from, say, Skyrim VR and only go towards your emulated game. Without this option enabled, you'll be moving left and right in Mario, but also going left and right in Skyrim, and we don't want that. Enable 3x speed boost. With this toggled on, your emulator will try to run at 3 times the normal speed. Nice little speed up for games like Pokemon where it's turn-based and you may want it to go faster. Console scales with 2-hand grab. I highly recommend this feature. If you grab the console with one hand, you'll move it around. But when you grab it with 2 hands, you can pull your hands away to make the console bigger or push your hands together to make it smaller. Require gesture unlock button to toggle portal. This makes it so you have to hold a button while performing the gesture to spawn the console in. Unfortunately, I've been unable to figure out how to bind the button for this as it's not bound by default. Toggle gesture speed. Setting this to 1 makes it so even the slightest movement can spawn the console, and setting it to 15 makes it so you have to do it pretty fast. Honestly, I set mine to 15 and it's perfect for me. Play with this option because with different VR headsets and controllers, it might be vastly different, but I recommend anywhere from 7 to 15. Dead zone size. I couldn't figure out what this did. I assume it's something to do with your analog sticks. When I move the slider, the number doesn't change at all on the menu, and it didn't affect the spawning of the console, nor did it affect the analog sticks. If you know what it does, post a comment to let everyone know, and I'll pin it. F3 Advanced Settings. I didn't get too much use out of this, but if there's one thing that you're going to use this for, it's disabling the input is being blocked option. What this does is it removes the text line at the top of the console, telling you that your input's being blocked from your VR game. You really don't need this constant reminder. If you do want it though, you can just leave it enabled. Now we need to set up your controls. First, launch SteamVR, and once it's running, load up PortableEmulator. Hit the Show Bindings button on the top left, and you'll be taken to a menu like this. I suggest using these bindings by Agent MM as a basis, and then configuring it to your own liking. VR controllers don't have the most buttons, so you may need some weird binds. Personally, I use the R3 and L3 inputs as my start and select, since my Quest 2 controllers don't have dedicated start and select buttons, but retro games require those inputs. When setting up your custom controls, just keep in mind what feels best for your controllers and what you personally prefer. Next, we need to make sure your overlays can use global input. So with SteamVR running and a VR headset connected, hit the little hamburger icon on the top left of the SteamVR desktop menu, go into Settings, then on the bottom left, make sure you have Advanced Settings set to Show, then go to Developer, and turn Enable Global Input from Overlays to On. We'll be doing a GBA game and a GBA core in this video, but if you want to do another console, just make sure you're using the correct ROM and core respectively. This program can be a little buggy at times, so if something isn't working as expected, just close PortableEmulator and relaunch it. It's important to launch SteamVR before PortableEmulator. If you launch PortableEmulator before SteamVR, sometimes it won't detect SteamVR and you can hear the game running, but you won't be able to see it. So SteamVR, then PortableEmulator. After PortableEmulator opens up, you'll want to hit the Load Game ROM option. This will open up a file browser. It'll remember the folder you load your last ROM from, so I recommend having all your games in the same folder for easy access of swapping games in the future. Pick your ROM and then hit select. Then go to Load Emulator Core. Same as the Load ROM option, it'll open up a file browser. You'll want to locate the cores you downloaded on Retroarch earlier. If you downloaded Retroarch on Steam, it'll be located in your Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Retroarch, Cores folder tree. Make sure the core you picked can run the ROM you picked. So since we're doing GBA, we'll choose VBA-M. The next step is the easy one. Hit Start Game and put your VR headset on and perform the gesture. Your personal portable emulator will spawn in front of you and it'll be running the game. You're all done. If you have any issues from here, refer back to my explanations of all the options and see if they fix your issues. Maybe you noticed already, but the default color for the portable emulator is a vibrant purple, bluish, GameCube color. But in some of the B-roll I've shown, it's been different colors. I'm going to show you how to customize it however you want. If you go into your portable emulator installation folder and follow this directory, portable emulator _data, streaming assets, you'll find two PNG files. One named portableemulator.png and one named tooltipblockercolor.png. If you edit these files, you'll change the look of your console. And don't worry, if you name it incorrectly or forget to even add the texture, everything will still work, it'll just be a blank white texture. There'll be a link in the description below to a folder of a bunch of simple but different skins that I created, so you can easily get a brown, pink, gray, purple, green, SNES, another green, GameCube, orange, red, blue, another red, yellow, white, mint, and even a leather texture. If you'd rather make your own, it's super simple. Just open up portableemulator.png, change the colors, add images, save it, and load up VR. Only thing is the console's texture is weirdly mapped with the PNG file. So if you want actual images on it, it'll take some finessing. I included this messy texture that kind of gives you an idea relative to the PNG file of where things are. It's not perfect, but if you use the skin and then compare the .png to the console with it on, you should kind of see how the texture gets mapped onto the console and how some spots wrap around it weirdly. Doing images like your favorite waifu might not look great, but doing textures like leather and grass hides the seams pretty well. And there you go. Now you have a portable emulator you can access from anywhere in SteamVR. You know how to customize it to your heart's content as well, so get out there and play some 2D games in VR space.
Gigi. Ka. Hmm? He.